Hello and welcome to MGR Reviews. Today we'll be reviewing the Revoltech Metal Gear Rising Revengeance Raiden. So yes, here we have Raiden from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, a game that I have not yet played, but it is certainly on my list of things to play, as it looks really freaking cool. Anyway, I decided to go ahead and get Raiden because I got a reasonable price on him, and I figured I knew I was going to like the game, so I'd just go ahead and get the figure from it. He is really, really cool. I don't get a lot of Revoltech stuff, but whenever I do, I tend to like it. So let's go ahead and zoom in for the articulation, scope, paint details.
Alright, starting off a quick size comparison. Of course, here we have Raiden. Here is a 3 3/4 inch Marvel Universe Wolverine, and here's a standard 6-inch Marvel Legends size Superior Spider-Man. Actually, Raiden is roughly the same size as Spider-Man, so I suppose he will actually fit in with a Marvel Legends display to some extent. I actually thought he was shorter, but he's really not. He is, of course, much taller than a 3 3/4 inch figure. Now let's get the other two out of here and just look at Raiden. Alright, moving on to our 360 spin. Here we have Raiden. He has his sort of matte metallic sort of armor, and then he has this light gray sort of cybernetic muscle stuff underneath that. He has some nice silver and yellow detail to the armor in various places around the chest. It's especially noticeable. He has just sort of little dots and rivets and things. He has spikes on his shoulders and on his arms. He has his sort of weird clawed feet down there at the bottom. And for the most part, that's it. It overall looks very, very cool. It's a very nice sort of cyborg kind of design, and it looks really neat. This is what he looks like in package. He does have some variable appearances, but this is what he looks like whenever you take him out of the box, with the exception of the fact that I do have his red eye in right now, because his eyes are really annoying to change out. Anyway, let's take a look at his head and the ways his head can be altered. Alright, moving on to the head sculpt. As you can see, he has white, spiky hair up there at the top. He has sort of a band over one of his eyes, and then his other eye is red. He also has a blue eye that interchanges with that. I'll show you that in a minute. He has sort of a chin strap thing that goes down around the bottom of his head. Turn his head to the side, you can see he's got sort of these little panel things on his head. Those come off, and then you can put on his sort of visor piece that goes over his face. And here is his visor piece. It's a shiny black and has a little bit of red down there at the bottom. You could technically leave the little things on the side on there if you wanted to, but I don't believe that would be accurate. To do that, all you have to do is just take the little front piece of his hair off, and then that bit is attached to it, and you just slide that on there. It's really simple. Like I said, he also has his alternative eye. I'm not going to swap them out because I don't like doing it, because I'm scared I'm going to lose the eyes every time that I do it, because they're really, really tiny. But I will show you the extra eye real quick. Here is his extra blue eye, or the primary eye, I suppose. They come with little sort of holder slate things like this that you can put the eye in so you don't lose them. Like I said, they're incredibly tiny balls, so they could just roll away and you will never find them again. So I would be incredibly careful with those. The eyes are also articulatable. They have little notches in the back, and then you get a little tool to sort of move them around as you desire. So that's all very cool. That about wraps it up for everything to do with his head. So let's move on to some articulation. Moving on to the articulation. If you're not familiar with Revoltech, their figure's articulation is almost entirely composed of their patented revolver joints. Revolver joints are essentially little ball joints with pegs on both ends so the piece can rotate on both sides and hinge in the middle, essentially. So they look like that. At the head, he has two revolver joints. He's got one that's at like the top of the head where the hair connects up there, and then he's got one in the neck where it attaches to the head and the neck. Then he has one in the neck. He has a double revolver joint in the shoulder, so you get full range of motion. Pretty much everywhere there's a revolver joint is pretty much full range of motion. They just require a little bit of finicking with. Revolver joint in the elbows. He just has normal hinges in the wrists. Depending on which hand you use, it'll either be an in and out or an up and down hinge. He has a revolver joint in the waist here, and then at the waist below that. Big revolver joints in the hips, revolver joints in the knees, revolver joints in the ankles, and then a normal hinge at the toe. So you get really, really good motion. The revolver joints can be sort of ugly from certain angles, like in the elbows they look a bit bad, then on the back of his knees they look a bit bad, but for the most part they provide a lot of mobility, and they look fairly decent, as long as you hide them somewhat well with the posing. Anyway, that's about it for his articulation. Now let's start looking at accessories, starting with his alternative hands. Alright, Raiden comes with a lot of hands. He's got 2 sets of fist hands, he's got 2 sets of sort of weird curled fingered hands, two sets of flat hands that look like karate chop action or something. Then he has two hands for sword holding, and he has one hand for knife holding, which has the thumb sort of up. And those are all of his hands. They all just sort of peg in there, and they're all very cool and useful and nicely detailed and all those sorts of things. Now let's move on to some actual accessories. One of Raiden's most important accessories is his sheath, which contains his two weapons. It's sort of like this big metal rectangle thing. It's a very unusual sheath design. And then it has this little piece that juts out there that's used to attach it to him. It has revolver joints on it, so you can position it around and things like that. I'll actually show you that on him in a minute. He has his katana, which is in here. It is mostly black and has a silver blade there. Looks pretty good. It has like some little rivet detail to it. And then he has his knife, which is here, which is pretty much just solid black and has a little bit of wrapping on the handle. So this is the slot where you attach his sheath at. You just take this little thing here and shove it into that hole, and you can sort of flip it up to where it's on his back, or you can take that part off and attach it like that to make it easier put on his hip. Next, he has his cardboard box, which is very useful for hiding in. This is actually a piece of paper craft. You will actually have to cut this out and put it together. I've just got it like lightly taped together right now because I don't really intend to use it, but I wanted to show you roughly what it looks like. It looks like a cardboard box. So I suppose they achieved that very well. Of course, Raiden comes with his Melon. It is green and has little black lines on it. The lines really never line up no matter how much you turn it around, but it can be pulled apart, and then it has the little pink insides with black seeds. So that's a pretty interesting little accessory. Raiden also comes with a wide variety of stand-related pieces. This is the main stand, which makes use of revolver joints, has the big V-shaped base down here with a peg on it for his foot. This thing here is sort of like a balancing rod. You peg this part into his foot and sort of help prop him up in like one-footed displays or things like that. This is like a dash effect. You can peg him onto that and he'll stand on that. This bit here pegs into his foot, and then you can attach his katana to it so he can kick people with his sword. And then this here attaches to this stand so you can sort of clip it around his sheath to give him some extra stability. All very useful things for helping him stand up and get into cool poses. So I like all of that. And lastly, Raiden comes with his mighty accessory box. Most Revoltech figures have these. You open it up, you put accessories in there. It's a cool little thing to have. Of course, you can just put all the accessories back in the box that the figure came in, which is what I'm probably going to do. But it's a nice thing to have if you want to have them in a more easily accessible way, I suppose. Alright, I believe that is finally it for all of Raiden's accessories. I hope I didn't miss anything. So let's move on to the packaging. Alright, Raiden comes in a pretty standard sort of Revoltech packaging. Get your big window there. Revoltech Yamaguchi Series 140. Raiden from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. Revoltech Yamaguchi thing down there at the bottom. Kyoto, Revoltech, all those sorts of things. Pictures of the joint on the side. Picture of the figure on that side. On the back, lots of posing. And you sort of get your instructions for what all the pieces are here on the back. Of course, I don't read Japanese, so I had to sort of just look at the pictures. Luckily, most of it's pretty self-explanatory. As always, these are good for enter out-of-package displays, so yeah, Raiden.
Alright, there I was there for Raiden, so until next time, goodbye!
Hello, you've just watched one of my videos. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed my videos. If you didn't, run away and never return. Also, feel free to check out my other channels, Venom Raptor for all my variety gaming content, and VR Reviews for reviews of various action figures and collectibles. Thank you, and goodbye.